They're doing a lot of complex stuff here to get this pommel just right. Like genuinely, it feels good. I'm actually really impressed by the balancing that they've been able to do on this. You ready to see the flex? Flex. And welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested, and today we have another Lord of the Rings episode, specifically Andúril, the king of all fantasy swords, or is it? Now, this one that we have is actually a battle-ready spring steel blade, sharp edge, all that sort of stuff, so we can actually cut with it, we can see how it feels in the hand. I am really excited about this. Obviously, we've done like a lot of Lord of the Rings episodes at this point. We've done Glamdring, High Elven Blade, Goblin Cleaver, Sauron's Mace, Saruman's Staff. We've done a lot, right? We even did the full ranking episodes of Lord of the Rings swords. So with that context in mind, let's get out there and see if it's worth the $350 price tag and the hype. I'm excited for this one because obviously we've done so many at this point. If you want to pick one up, there will be a link in the description and the pinned comment. You can also obviously pick up things like Glamdring, Goblin Cleaver, etc., etc. Let's get out there. And here it is, the king of all fantasy swords, Andúril, forged from the shards of Narsil. Now, this is an interesting blade, and obviously, like I said a little bit earlier, this one comes to us by way of Swordia, who has been knocking it out of the park with their functional, battle-ready Lord of the Rings sword replicas. Now, this one in particular is a little bit different from the others, and I have a couple of thoughts on it, which we'll get into in a minute. But let's talk a little bit about this sword in general, because it is one of the most popular fantasy swords, right? Everybody absolutely loves the style, the design of this sword, like for obvious reasons, right? It's a beautiful sword. I've never been a huge fan of it. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like it. That's not what I'm saying. I just mean I've always preferred Glamdring over Andúril, just personally, right? However, this one here has a couple of interesting things going for it because it has a beautiful fuller running all the way down the length of the blade. We have the rune inscriptions, obviously because this one, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but obviously Andúril was actually forged in, I believe, the First Age in Novgorod by the dwarves. So it's actually a dwarven sword, right? This one here in particular, the balancing on it is absolutely incredible. It's perfect, right? Because we have that large, pretty solid metal pommel. However, I think what they've done here on this particular version, this battle-ready version, they've made it a bit too floppy. The blade itself, I think, has a little bit too much flex. Like, I think it's just too floppy for this length of blade. And I think the reason why they did that was to get the weight distribution just right, because obviously this is, it has a lot of metal down here, and if the blade weighed a lot, the balancing would be terrible. So they've tried to make it as functional as possible, but a consequence of that means that obviously the blade is a little bit more floppy than we would usually want. It is very, very sharp, so we should be able to cut things. I think the sword is actually really nice. I mean, it's a battle-ready spring steel Andúril, and the weight distribution on it is fucking phenomenal. So there is a lot going for it, but I feel like I really have to mention this flex about it. There we go, that one. Ooh, I had to get my edge alignment absolutely perfect, but we got a good one. We got a good one. Now, as you guys may or may not be able to see on camera, it is currently raining. So I'm out here in the rain. At least I'm kept nice and cool today, huh? All right, let's see if I can get my edge alignment really nice again. Okay, that one wasn't too bad. Let's try some pool noodles. Let's see how they fare. If we're able to do, oh, okay. Oh. Okay, that is cutting nice. Okay, pool noodles. That, holy shit, that actually cut a lot better than the last time I cut with this, because I've actually cut with this before and it did not cut that nice. That one cut. All right, let's test our thrusting. It actually cut really, really fucking nice on the pool noodles, I'm not gonna lie. So let's see how it feels to get through the gambeson, because this is where the flex actually might make a big difference. I'm very curious. Interesting. I didn't put much power into that one. Yeah, wow. So that's as deep as it went, which it still got through, right? But I can feel all of the energy basically being sucked out into the flex. Because you see how floppy this is, right? It is genuinely very floppy. I'll give it a slash. In terms of cutting, I actually really like it. In terms of the balancing and handling, honestly, it is not bad. Now, it is obviously not the full size as like the official replicas, or even the one in the Aragon used in the film. They're a bit longer, right? This one is made to be a long sword Anduril, so the correct scale to a regular person. Regular person, regular size sword. In terms of the length, I think I'm okay with it, especially when you've got to take into the fact that they're doing a lot of complex stuff here to get this pommel just right, this balancing just right. Now, that doesn't mean it's perfect. There are a few issues, besides the floppiness, right? Very floppy blade. There is a bit of like finishing issues, specifically around the pommel and the crossguards, where they're supposed to have like a gold insert. They've just painted them on. And I don't like how they look personally. I think it would just be better to not have them. So we're kind of in a weird area where it's like, this sword is still a battle ready spring steel blade, right? It is absolutely finished gorgeously. I really like how the crossguard and pommel feel. There's no sharp areas, so I'm super fucking into that. So I'm torn on this one. I'm torn on this one. So like I said, the actual blade, right, was made by dwarves, which I find interesting, right? Because it's a very non-dwarven blade, especially if we look, like obviously this is the live action Anduril, obviously the Peter Jackson verse, as it were. But it's very interesting just to think about it because you look at obviously the dwarven design of blades, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's pretty cool. This is nowhere similar to any of them. It's very similar to kind of the issue with Glamdring, right? Glamdring was made by the Gondolin elves in the first stage, same as this, and that is like a long sword, yet all the other elven swords are nowhere near that. It's just interesting stuff there, right? That they didn't really obviously cover in the films. The vibration on it down near the hand is like, can you hear that? Because obviously we have that full, like that's over half the handle of the pommel. Got that last bit of rubbish. Oh, would you look at that? It says subscribe. Hey, while we're at it, why don't you guys subscribe if you're not already? I mean, that was a total coincidence that was not planned at all. Who would have thought? Now, in terms of the actual design itself, there's only one real gripe that I have. Now, it's not even a real gripe, but it does exist. And now, obviously, with a lot of European swordsmanship, you are going to be thumbing the blade. Now, what is thumbing the blade? It's essentially holding the blade like this so that I can articulate my wrist like this, essentially. The problem is, this has like a big point right at the crossguard where I'd want to put my thumb. So it means I have to put it kind of like to each side, which isn't a big deal, but it is kind of, it's uncomfortable because of the grind work on here. Not that the grind work is bad, it's just obviously you have a big piece of metal sticking right up at your thumb. Now that is my only real gripe with the design, because how it feels in the hand, one hand, two hand, it feels good. Like genuinely, it feels good. I'm actually really impressed by the balancing that they've been able to do on this. I'm gonna do this. I mean, it's flexing just under its own weight. I'm gonna try and do this with one finger, or two fingers, because I'll hold the blade up. Two fingers, and the blade is there. Two fingers. You can see from the sag it has under its own weight. So, look, it's still straight, it's still good, right? But it's really one of those things where I think they just went a little bit overboard with the flex on this particular blade. So what is my final verdict? Well, the truth is, I think this one occupies a weird space for me, because in terms of the quality, the fit, the finish, the sharpness of the blade, the grind on the blade, all those things I really, really like. My biggest gripe is obviously, you know, that gold inlay that they've just painted on that kind of looks terrible. I just prefer if they didn't do that, right? But in terms of all of those aspects, this is really, really good, and they've gotten the balancing so incredible. I wish you guys could feel this, but it is absolutely insane, right? Like the balancing point is like, it's right here. I can't show you because it's obviously a point, right? And it falls over, but the balancing is absolutely gorgeous. But to do all of these things, they've done that. And it's just a bit too flexy for my liking. Now, does that mean it's not a strong blade? It means, yeah, like it's still spring steel, battle ready. You're still gonna be able to cut with it. It's still gonna be able to stand up to some abuse, right? This is one of those things where I don't know if I'm gonna tell you guys that you should pick one up, because I think this one is just one of those things. If you want this and you want it to sit on a wall, but you want it to be a functional replica that you can go out and, like, you know, cut bottles and pool noodles, sure. But if you want something that is a little bit more robust, I'm hoping that they're going to revisit it, because I think it just falls a little bit short in the blade category. Now, with that being said, it is time to get into Tyrant's initial thoughts score, or TITS for short, because this is a fantasy sword and Glamdring got a rating, so this one gets a rating. Now, in terms of the flex of the blade, I think I'll take it out, but I can't, because this one is so well balanced because of the flex of the blade. Damn it. All right, starting off with comfort. It's quite comfortable. Like, I've got no complaints about the comfort. It's really good. The only little, you know, thing that I kind of complained about is obviously I like thumbing my blade a little bit better. This one has that sharp point, but again, that doesn't really affect it. That's just me being a bitch about it. So I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 for comfort, because it is a very, very nicely balanced and comfortable sword. Next up, let's go to wieldability. Okay, this is where that flex is going to come into play here. So you can wield it very quick, very nimble, very, very nice, but your wieldability is decreased a little bit because of how much flex you have. It means that cutting through some different mediums are not going to be that good. So I'm going to give this one an 8 for wieldability, and that's purely just down to because of that blade flex. If the blade was a lot more stiff, then this would be a 10 out of 10 for sure. Next up, effectiveness. Again, we have to take the flex into account because of the fact that will decrease your effectiveness. It'll slap sometimes. Now, it's still very effective and it still cuts really well, but the problem is, this is, you know, like a war sword, right? This is what Aragon takes into battle, and he's smashing orcs and their armor, all those sorts of things. The truth is, doing that with this one, you will have not a very fun time. And this is what I've got in my hand, guys. This is a real Anduril. This is the battle-ready Anduril, so I have to judge this one as it is. I'll give it an 8. And then last but not least, design. I love the design. It is perfectly practical. Like I've said a couple of times, I'm not trying to bias myself, but I do like the Glamdring design a little bit better. But this design is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's still absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. Is it the king of fantasy swords though? Well, I don't know. Bloody might be. I still think Glamdring is a nicer fantasy sword, but this one is still pretty good. In terms of its design, I am more than happy to give this 10 out of 10. And that gives us a final score of 36 out of 40. That is bloody good. Now, is it as good as Glamdring because Glamdring got a perfect score? No, but it's all just down. Those last 4 points in all those little categories that we had to take off were purely just down to this bloody flex. But apart from that, if you want to pick one of these up, there'll be a link down below. Is Anduril the best fantasy sword there is? I mean, honestly, there is a lot of stiff competition. There are a lot of sword designs out of there from other fantasy media that are bloody good. I think this one's more just a personal preference thing, because it's a fucking awesome design. It is functional, it is practical, and this sword here is pretty bloody good, man. This bad boy I can cut with, which, as you guys saw, I enjoyed. So I would get it for that reason, personally. But there just are some gripes that I would like you guys to be aware of before you pick one of them up. But that's gonna be all. Thank you guys for watching. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you next week in another episode. Have a good one.